Okay, now, so where are we up to? We're up to communication to others. Oh, did anyone have raffles and tangible things? Things? You'd have that for sure. What else do you have? Time? Did anyone have time? Yeah, the research shows parents don't like time off, but they don't mind time over which a student has choice, and it also indicates that choice doesn't matter whether it's free time or time for something else. It's not the time, it's the choice. Choice is power. So if you can give children choice as a result of their responsible behaviour over what they may or may not do next, that will work. That's a way of giving them power. Then there is, I think that's about it. What have I missed? Non-verbal, verbal, communication to others, time, tangibles. Oh yeah, and privileges of kinds. Privileges means, it's really funny because the privilege for a D is a punishment for an A, you know. Theoretically, a D can go and help in the garden, and that's a reward. If you send an A to help in the garden, it's a punishment. So it depends on needs primarily. Anything kinesthetic and that sort of stuff is a bit like a reward to an A and a punishment to a D. Yeah?
I've found conversations with students outside of class, like on yard duty, really, really valuable. Like when it's, you know, when there's no...
That's a general idea of relationship, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not so much it's not so much that. What you're talking about is the general relationship which makes those rewards worthwhile. So if we could just say to the teachers, say hello to these kids in the morning, that would make their rewards work in some cases where they don't at the moment. It's that simple, if you could show a general connection. Okay, this I put up just for fun. You've probably been through this, but I love this. I get a bit sarcastic towards the end. But you've got to be good at this, some sort of conversation. But you can't get sarcastic, which is what I tend to do. You know, you've got to say it meaningfully and genuinely, and for me that takes a lot of rehearsal. Because you feel like saying, look, I thought you understood, you know, you knew right from wrong, but if you don't, you know, if you're not there yet, I'll bribe you as well. What do you need? And they hate it, they hate it. This is secondary I've done this with. They'd much... Now, I've got one primary school having, let's see who's responsible day, Thursdays. Meaning, on Thursday there are no rewards and no punishments. And we'll see who's responsible. Is that not clever? If you mess up, you get punishments which mean you automatically go on the reward system, but that's only if you mess up. If you cannot mess up and not require rewards and punishments, by definition you are responsible, and everyone will know that. So if you do not appear on the system, you must be responsible. And isn't that clever? And one teacher's a little less subtle. She gives people certificates to say, I don't need rewards, which is sort of not really right, but she gets away with it somehow. So that's your challenge. Your challenge is, how do you bring in a system which minimises the rewards as the effort decreases? You're only recognising effort. If the effort decreases, how does the system remove the rewards? Now, I personally have spoken to a year 7 and I've asked them, that I've suggested I thought they were growing up and they didn't need the rewards, and I would give them their points, but if they didn't cash in those points, I would know that they had become quite responsible. And at that point, I think something like 60% of the class just stopped cashing in. But I gave them their points because I wasn't prepared not to do that. I felt I had to have that level of control. So I would say to someone, because by the way, you should know if you're doing this and you want a good system for a teacher struggling, just come up with something called a transition folder, meaning most misbehaviour occurs at transition from activity A to activity B. That's the research. Okay, so if you can control them during the transitions, you're pretty safe. So what you do is you say, okay, when you're going to say to them, look, stop doing that and do this, come sit in the mat, you have a nice psychedelically coloured sort of folder which you pick up and say, let's see who's ready. And then 1 point for anyone who's ready, 2 points for anyone who's encouraging others to be ready, because that's communal, that's harder. And when they get to a certain number of points, they get to cash in. So that's what I was doing with my 7s to 10s. At any transition, if everyone went quiet, you get 1 point. If you went shh, you get 2 points. If you went, shut up, you get no points. So, of course, you know, one right was respect, but the other one was ignored, so you balanced out. So what I found was that I could say to people, oh, let's see who's ready. Oh, 120 points, impressive. Meaning you could have cashed in at 20 and you're now up to 120, you don't need it. And they bought that. Anyone played that game?
But it's still a competition of seeing who can get more.
Oh yeah, I should be able to say to them, do I have to call out your points or are you really there? Yeah, I know, I didn't take that chance. I was only there 1 year, I didn't have that level of relationship really, that I didn't want to take that chance. I was supposed, you should know, I was supposed to be an expert at management and I had some really interesting experiences. Like if you're ever teaching physics, like science it was, and I was in constructivist learning at the time, it was before its time. So I gave them trolleys and bricks and elastic bands and meter rulers, and I sent them outside to discover. They discovered all right. They discovered, now this was in an internal quadrangle, right, with all the other classes able to look out. They discovered that if you stand on the trolley, you can gondola yourself with the meter rulers. They discovered that if you have two people on these trolleys and you sword fight, one of them will eventually fall off and is a loser. They discovered if you pull the elastic bands far enough on the meter rulers and let them go, they hurt like buggery. They discovered all sorts of it, but it wasn't F equals MA, and it was meant to be about maths and acceleration. So I didn't do that again. But this is what I mean. Theory's great, practice is another thing. So you need to be very careful with this stuff, and I need to know where the hiccups are. So you need to feed back to me if anything I'm saying is absolute nonsense, because it could be. It's less likely this time because I've been through one cycle. No, that's right. That's right. Just because it works once, it doesn't mean it'll necessarily work again. All right, yeah.
Sorry, what do you mean by cashing in points?
Cashing in, they would cash in, and they would even tell me what they wanted in the goodies bag.
Oh,
Yeah. And as I said to you, the best seller for the Ds and the Ds were letters. The letters home, they could cash in for a letter. And they would prefer that over time, over tangibles even, food. Okay, this is one, I found that on the wall. I don't know if you call it good, bad or indifferent, but I found it. See, I look at achievement card. If it's social achievement, maybe. But the fact that it says that means that they're sort of thinking that way. So, in other words, and the thing I like is simply that. Now, the question will be, how's she going to get them off them? That'll be an issue. One of the other ones, I think, I found this sort of stuff. One of the rewards was having your picture put up and people say nice things about you. It was a reward type process which at the same time taught communal responsibility. I thought that was very clever. And for Ds, it rebuilt their sense of self. It did everything in one way or another, and you just rotated the kids.
But what happened if you only had...
If you only had one or two? I don't know, I didn't see any like that. They all, I'll show you. See, they all had things on them. Different year levels, you can tell by the writing. So it's a good question. Maybe you sneak in at night and put extras up. I don't know how she did it. Okay, so the moral of the story though is, and this is what you were worried about, and I think you're correct, don't overdo it. I have been to schools where they gave away motor cars. I don't know if I told you, $11,500 motor cars in 1995 in America, which was a lot of motor car. You got a raffle ticket just by coming through the gate. Not the staff members, sorry, just the students. And they had 4 a year, because they had terms. 4 a year, and they raffled them. And you might say that's expensive and it didn't cost the school a penny, because they went to the local insurance companies and they said, would you like to sponsor these cars? And they did, because 17% more kids came to school, and if they were in school they weren't in your lounge room taking your stuff. So instead of breaking and entering, they were at school. And everyone was happy. Insurance companies saved a fortune, but it means you've got no relationship. You know, that's your real problem. All right, that's a list. Anything there that you weren't aware of?